What's going on, everybody? C4, welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be redrafting the 2022 NFL Draft. Here messing around on my favorite mock draft site. Didn't know you could do previous years. There were a lot of previous years. I could redraft like up to like 2016. It's the best site. It's the best mock draft site. Gotta get a sponsor. Gotta get a partnership going here. But we're going to be redrafting the 2022 Draft. And obviously in hindsight, it's going to be in hindsight. So there's going to be a lot of interesting picks. I just think it's kind of a fun exercise. We have the Combine coming up next week, and I want to do something a little bit different than another 2023 mock draft. So let's go redraft the first round from 2022. Overall, there were 13 trades that happened in 2022, and I'm only going through with one of those trades, because every other trade except one was involving picks, and in a hindsight draft, you're not going to trade for future picks. You're going to know and you want to go and get the best players at your position of need. The only trade that we are accepting is obviously going to be the trade between the Titans and the Philadelphia Eagles, because that was the only player for pick trade and acting in the interest of the team that got offered a said trade, which I'm assuming Tennessee's like, you give us pick 18, we'll give you A.J. Brown. Yep, we are going to accept that. We're going to have to imagine it, however, because for some reason it won't let me actually make that trade here. Like, I want to give 18... and we'll give, like, just, obviously, we're only doing a one-round mock draft. So, like, all right, we'll give you a future, whatever. It just won't let me accept the trade. So, we're going to need to imagine Tennessee is at pick 18. And if there was other pick for player trades, I would have made them in this. It's not just because I'm an Eagles fan, but that is what we're going to do there. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. Pick 1, we have Jacksonville. They originally selected Travon Walker, the edge rusher out of Georgia. And in a redraft format, kind of a tough call, but I think knowing that they want an edge rusher, I'm going to have them get Aiden Hutchinson, who was outstanding in his rookie season for the Detroit Lions. Very much on the Defensive Rookie of the Year shortlist. Got some sacks, got some interceptions, surprisingly. Looked like an absolute game wrecker when he was out there. So I think if Jacksonville could do it all again, I think they probably should have just made that pick anyways. Felt like the layup and the less risky between that. And I mean, Travon Walker's still a solid player. That's something you're going to see in this draft, is that there's going to be an element of hindsight where we know which rookies played well their rookie season, but you still need to factor in some of these guys that might not have had the best rookie season, still the talent level. So I'm talking about Derek Stingley, Evan Neal. Those are probably the big ones within the top 10. Like, those guys there still are going to get drafted fairly high because the talent level is there. We can't just completely write them off because maybe not the best rookie season. But Hutchinson, I mean, you can also throw Travon Walker into that mix. He's still going to be, after that combine, a ridiculously high draft pick for what his talent was and what his upside is. But obviously, when all things are even, you're going to go with the guy that was more impressive as a rookie, which is why we're going Hutchinson to 1. Number 2, we have the Detroit Lions. This is a layup. I mean, I think Sauce Gardner should have went 1 overall. And for whatever it's worth, you look back at C4's big board last year, someone had Sauce Gardner as their number 1 overall player when most people had him, you know, maybe top 5, maybe outside their top 5, top 10. He was easily my number 1 guy, and he played like it. He is the Defensive Rookie of the Year, and the Detroit Lions, looking to solidify that secondary, would absolutely, if Aiden Hutchinson was out the board. I mean, that's an interesting argument. I'd love to hear if you're a Detroit Lion fan watching this. If you had Sauce Gardner and Aiden Hutchinson on the board, what would you pick? Who would you prioritize there? You go with edge because edge is generally a little bit more valuable than corner, or you just say, screw it, Sauce Gardner's so freaking good, we're just going to make that deal. Pick 3, we have the Houston Texans. Originally, this was a Derek Stingley selection, but we are going to show some love to their edge rush needs, and we're going to get them Kayvon Thibodeaux, the pass rusher out of Oregon. Solid rookie season. Had that injury, got a real ugly chop block in the preseason. I believe it was preseason, like late preseason. It was dirty. I hate the chop block. One of the worst plays in football. It's a play that just lets scrubs and unathletic players keep up. There should be a penalty. There's 10, 15 yards for like bullshit judgment calls from the ref. I think if anyone just dives at your knees, that should also be a 15-yard penalty. But I don't know. Who's that? Who am I? I only played high school football. That was my ceiling. And I was terrified of just shit kids. You know what I'm saying? Just chop blocking me because they couldn't keep up. I hated it. End of rant. Kayvon Thibodeaux, who's trying to play like the bad guy in the NFL since he's been with the Giants, but still an outstandingly talented player. And I think if you're the Houston Texans in a redraft, you're probably going to grab Kayvon Thibodeaux over Derek Stingley. Pick 4, we have the Jets on the board. This is where they originally got Sauce Gardner. I'd have them get just a later pick. They're going to get Garrett Wilson, the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Outstanding. He was wide receiver 1 last season for me. And while my wide receiver 2 was very close, which we'll get to in a little bit, Garrett Wilson just has it all. You know, the only thing I guess you could knock against him is that he wasn't the big-bodied guy. He wasn't 6'2", 210 pounds, but his jump ball he might as well be that big. He might not have the frame, but he does literally everything you want a wide receiver to do. I think the Jets would remake that pick 10 times out of 10. Giants up at pick 5. This was originally Kayvon Thibodeau. He's already off the board, so we're going to have the Giants continue to fix their wide receiver room and bring in Chris Olave, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. A lot of people had him right in that Offensive Rookie of the Year shortlist. He had an outstanding rookie season, and I think for the New York Giants, looking at where they're going this offseason, still a major need at wide receiver when like Isaiah Hodgins is your best wide receiver. If you have an opportunity to kind of go back in history and give Daniel Jones more weapons, give Brian Daboll more weapons, you definitely have to take that opportunity. And Chris Olave, one of the best wide receivers from this draft class. Pick 6, we have the Carolina Panthers. I think I'm just going to have them run it back. They need a quarterback. They need a tight tackle. And I'm just going to have them get Ike Ekwonu. He had a solid rookie season. And I think a lot of people were kind of on board that he was just edging out Evan Neal last year, like before we knew what they would even look like as rookies, as a top tackle in this year's draft class. I think still a very nice building block for the Carolina Panthers. Might not be the most flashy pick, but given the state of their roster last year and how well Ike Ekwonu pretty much worked out, not necessarily, rookie team of the year. The talent is still there, and I think he's an excellent building block here. Maybe a hot take, maybe Panther fans would redraft something a little bit differently here. You still got Tariq Woolen out there. Drake London, but I feel like, they don't need corner. They don't need a wide receiver. It was quarterback or best offensive lineman available, and I think Ike Ekwonu at 6, the value is still there. Pick 7, we have the New York Giants. They originally at this pick selected Evan Neal. We're going to go something a little bit different here, and I'm going to have them select Tariq Woolen, the corner out of UTSA, 6'4", ran 4.2, ended up having a whole bunch of interceptions last year for the Seattle Seahawks. The surprise pick to literally, I don't know, just the media, I suppose. Maybe we're all conditioned because a lot of people that watch my content, we play Madden, and if you saw a Madden corner that was 6'4" with 4.2 speed, you're going to draft him in the first round. You're not going to let this guy fall down the draft board. I'm not saying Tariq Woolen should have been a first rounder, but I would have had him as like a late 2, third, like day 2 pick at some range just because of the traits. And he just goes to Seattle, ends up being ridiculous, probably the best value pick of the entire draft between probably him and Brock Purdy. So we're going to have them in the redraft here. The Giants, who lost James Bradbury, couldn't afford to pay him. Philadelphia very happy that they moved on from James Bradbury, but they get an immediate replacement right there in Tariq Woolen. Pick 8, we have the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to actually have them run this pick right back. They got Drake London. He had a very good rookie season for an offense that wasn't the best throwing the football. I was not a fan of Drake London, more so just because I've been burned as a Philadelphia Eagle fan by USC wide receivers, and he proved me wrong to a certain extent. He definitely lived up to the billing as a top 10 pick, was very productive, was graded out very well by PFF, and I definitely think if Atlanta gets more consistent of a passing offense, which I don't know if that's going to come with Desmond Ridder under center or not, I think Drake London definitely has the ceiling of being a 1,000-yard receiver. Pick 9, we have the Seattle Seahawks, and I'm going to actually have them also run it back with a pick that they made and get Charles Cross, the tackle from Mississippi State. Between Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas, who, let's see if we can show that off. Abraham Lincoln. Seattle absolutely crushed the draft this year. They needed to. Like, the Legion of Boom era was built because they were drafting well. And then it was like after Legion of Boom started to fall off a little, like they were drafting shit. Seattle had a very, 5 drafts of just not good drafts at all. They were back. Tell everybody, call them up, because Seattle is back drafting well. Last year was outstanding, and I think at pick 9, you run it back with Charles Cross, who looks like a franchise left tackle. Pick 10, we have the Jets back on the board. Maybe a little bit of a hot pick, but because he was so damn good and it was a position to need at the time, I'm going to have them get Kyle Hamilton, who was, I think, overall the highest graded safety by PFF in the NFL. And while there was some concerns about his lack of juice, his lack of agility, getting lost in routes, he still was outstanding as a rookie, one of the best rookie defensive backs in all of the NFL last year. And I feel like the Jets, is he worth the top 10 pick? I think knowing in hindsight, I think you got to give it to him. And I think for the Jets, having that on the back end of their defense, you get one offense, you get one defensive player, you're going to do that every day of the week. The Commanders up at pick 11. Originally, this pick was a trade. This was our first trade. The Saints traded up to get Chris Olave at the selection. We're going to the Commanders stand put, and I'm going to have them select Kenny Pickett, the quarterback out of Pittsburgh. This was a little bit of a hot take. I made a tweet saying, would Brock Purdy go in the first round of a redraft? And it was mixed results. And I had a couple of people chime in saying that I don't even know if Kenny Pickett would go in the first round. I couldn't disagree more. I saw more than enough positives from Kenny Pickett with the Pittsburgh Steelers last year to say, yeah, he's a first rounder. Yes, there are definitely traits to build off of. Is he better than, where would Kenny Pickett go in the 2023 draft? He'd go behind Bryce Young. He'd go behind CJ Stroud. But there's teams that would probably value Kenny Pickett over Will Levis, over Anthony Richardson. I think even if Kenny Pickett was in this year's draft class, he still probably is in that bubble of guys that wouldn't be surprising if they went in the first round. I think knowing how the Commanders' quarterback situation kind of broke out, I think they would be happy with Kenny Pickett going forward, knowing, because this is all in hindsight, the Commanders aren't really in a position this draft without trading up to get a quarterback. Maybe they could get a Will Levis potentially, but if you're in that area code, different styles of quarterbacks. Will Levis obviously is a much better arm, but I think Kenny Pickett between the ears is more smarter than Will Levis. So more smarter. That's awesome. Trust me. Hey, I'm from one of the Trailer Park Boys films. Every now and again, more smarter. Don't English hard English. Hard English is hard. But Kenny Pickett to the Commanders. I don't know. What do you feel about this, Washington fans? All 6 of you, huh? Most Washington fans don't even know how to use a computer because they're 65 years old. But I think I'd rather go with Kenny Pickett this year, build off of Kenny Pickett, and go into this offseason not having to figure out the quarterback spot, not having to trade for a veteran quarterback, not having to trade up for a quarterback in the 2023 draft. You have your guy and build around him. The Vikings are up at pick 12, and I'm going to have them select Trent McDuffie, the corner out of Washington. He had a great rookie season for the Kansas City Chiefs. Was able to kind of fight off size concerns and prove that he could play pretty much everywhere in the secondary, which that versatility would be huge for the Minnesota Vikings on the back end, who went into this draft needing corner help and who are going in the 2023 draft in just offseason needing corner help. So McDuffie here at 12 would solve some of those needs. We have the Texans up at 13. I'm going to have them make a pick that they just made later on and grabbing Jalen Petrie, the safety of the Baylor. Absolute ball hack, had a bunch of turnovers. He was my favorite safety in last year's draft class, and he absolutely proved it. He can do it all. If he shores up a couple missed tackles here or there, he might have been higher than Kyle Hamilton for the top safety from this year's draft class. But I'm a big fan of Jalen Petrie, an outstanding get for the Houston Texans when they get him in the second round, I believe. So we're going to have them get him at 13 to ensure that he doesn't go anywhere else. Baltimore at pick 14, and at this point, they're going to stop the free fall of Travon Walker. Baltimore absolutely is the kind of team that would draft a player that has a high ceiling like Travon Walker that needs to be developed, because Baltimore just has a very high hit rate of developing those style of players. We saw it with the selection of David Ajabo, who they got in the second round in Michigan, who had the injury, but also was still a little bit of a project. So Travon Walker was still on the board. Baltimore is getting him at 14. Philadelphia on the clock at 15, and I think they just, at this spot, knowing in hindsight that pick 18, even though it says Philly, it's going to be Tennessee. We got A.J. Brown. You're not going to get Stingley. We got Bradbury, right? This is all in hindsight. I think maybe Jermaine Johnson could be interesting, could be an interesting discussion. But I think if I'm Philly, I just still run it back with Jordan Davis, knowing the state of our D-tackle room right now going into this offseason. Fletcher Cox likely gone. Javon Hargrave likely gone. So we're kind of future-proofing the position. Yes, Jordan Davis didn't get on the field a whole lot, had an injury, but when he was on the field, he graded out fairly well from PFF. There was clear and obvious when he was not on the field how bad our run defense was. So we definitely saw enough pros out of Jordan Davis. I think you absolutely still redraft him here at pick 15 for Philadelphia, because he's going to be very impactful, very important for the Eagles in 2023. And even in his rookie season, while he didn't have amazing stats, he still was outstanding against the run, which was his job and his role on the defense. Pick 16, we have the New Orleans Saints here. I'm kind of in the same kind of deal. The free fall stops. I think you go after Evan Neal here. Maybe not the best rookie season for the New York Giants, but in terms of talent, in terms of ceiling, absolutely still worth a first-round pick. You can't teach the traits that he has, and I think you can't write him off after one kind of rookie season. And the Saints did they did draft a tackle in this draft. They got Trevor Penning. And if you told me all things equal, you need a tackle, and you have Evan Neal, Penning, and Tyler Smith, both Penning and Tyler Smith graded out better than Evan Neal, I'm still going with the potential and ceiling of Evan Neal. And maybe going somewhere that's not the New York Giants might be more beneficial to him, even though the Giants aren't scrubs when it comes to developing linemen. They took Andrew Thomas from maybe a potential question mark when they drafted him high out of Georgia, and now he's one of the better tackles in the NFL. But I still would take that swing on Evan Neal. Pick 17, we have the Chargers, and we're going to have them select Tyler Smith, lineman out of Tulsa. Now, Smith can play guard and tackle. I think, remember, going into this draft, the Chargers just needed offensive line help. I think the best overall offensive line, without getting center, just a pure center in Linderbaum, would be Tyler Smith at this spot because he can play couple different places. So pick 18, this is Tennessee. Philadelphia has traded to get A.J. Brown. The Titans are on the clock at pick 18. This is where they selected Treylon Burks. And in a redraft, we're going to get George Pickens, the wide receiver out of Georgia. George Pickens was my second favorite wide receiver in last year's draft class after Garrett Wilson, and so many people were sleeping on him. I literally was just like asking people that are making mock drafts, why is George Pickens not as high? He was a 5-star recruit, had some injuries at Georgia, but when he was on the field, he was absurd. He was the best wide receiver in the SEC, and absolutely should have went in the first round. Like, I was screaming for Philadelphia to trade for this guy and make sure I got him in all my mock drafts for the Eagles. Obviously, this was before the A.J. Brown trade came to fruition. George Pickens is an absolute stud, and in a redraft, I think you still take him over Jameson Williams. There was questions about the health of Jameson Williams. Still first-round talent. I think you take Pickens over Burks. I think you take him over Dotson. I think you take him over Christian Watson. He is first-rounder in my book, and we have him going pick 18 to the Philadelphia Tennessee Titans. Pick 19, the Saints are back on the clock, and they are going to grab Jameson Williams. So, in real life, the Saints traded up to get Chris Olave, but they're still going to stand pat and get the same positions they would have drafted without having to trade up. They got a tackle and a wide receiver originally in Trevor Penning and Chris Olave. And this redraft, they're getting a tackle in Evan Neal, and they're getting a wide receiver in Jameson Williams out of Alabama. Now, he missed most of the season. I feel like came back last like 3-4 weeks. But you can't teach his speed. And, you just see, and you look at the Saints, they had that Rashid guy as their burner. Sure, great value pick, great find, great diamond in the rough. But, like, that is an element that they want to their offense. And for this year's draft class, there's not a wide receiver that's going to be able to do that and build onto that until 2023, then Jameson Williams. So the Saints make this selection, and their wide receiver room looks just as good, if not better, especially going forward. Pittsburgh at pick 20. Originally, this was a selection of Kenny Pickett. I'm not going to have them go back and get a quarterback here. Every pick from here on for teams that have question marks is going to be, will I have Brock Purdy go in the first round? But I think for Pittsburgh, they also need help at wide receiver. And knowing in hindsight that they moved on from Mapletron, I'm going to have them at this spot get Christian Watson, the speedster out of North Dakota State. Absolutely was hot and cold at times for the Green Bay Packers, but I think ultimately 6'4" with ridiculous speed. Absolute game-breaking speed. And the production that he had is still, the traits are there for him to go in the first round. And knowing that Pittsburgh, in this redraft simulation, are not going to have George Pickens, I think given the board, Christian Watson makes a whole lot of sense to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pick 21, we have the New England Patriots on the clock. And I'm going to have them get Derek Stingley. The free fall stops. I think Bill Belichick is just going to be like, you let me get this guy that I'm going to be able to develop into a monster. It's done. Absolute done. Now, there might be questions with Derek Stingley buy into the Patriot way, and that is for another day. I just think overall, the Patriots needed DB help, and if Derek Stingley was still on the board at 21, free falling a little bit, this is where his floor would be New England. Green Bay at 22. We have the Green Bay Packers here. We're going to get them some wide receiver help and getting them Jahan Dotson, who had a pretty productive career so far through 1 year with the Commanders. I think he had 7 total touchdowns. Missed some games during injury, but I think for the Green Bay Packers, still absolutely would have to address the wide receiver spot in this draft. I don't think they had a particularly good first round, getting a linebacker and Devontae Wyatt. I think in a perfect redraft, you would get that weapon for Aaron Rodgers. And while you don't have Christian Watson, I think looking at the guys that are available, Jahan Dotson still, after his rookie season, definitely grades out as a first rounder. We have the Arizona Cardinals at pick 23, and I'm going to have them get Jermaine Johnson, the edge rusher out of Florida State. This was a pick that the Jets ended up trading back up to have 3 first-round picks to get Jermaine Johnson. He was falling a little bit. Didn't play a whole lot his rookie season, but still graded out fairly well. He was like a 71 PFF grade on like 100-some snaps. So I think when you're looking for the Arizona Cardinals, definitely need more pass rush help in this draft. They probably still actually need more pass rush help going into the 2023 draft, and a great athlete like Jermaine Johnson would definitely fill that void. Pick 24 for the Dallas Cowboys. Originally, this is where they got Tyler Smith. I'm going to have them get Tyler Linderbaum, the center from Iowa. I believe he was the highest overall graded lineman in this whole draft. And the offensive line is definitely where the Dallas Cowboys need to build. Maybe not center. Maybe you could argue the value is not 100% there. But I think getting a guy that looks like he's going to be a top 5 center in the NFL, even for Dallas, you got to make that pick. You're going to protect. You're going to keep to build the offensive line there a little bit. And that is, who's your starting center? Biadasz, who's like a 60 PFF grade average, probably going to walk free agency. Linderbaum gives you your center for the next decade. Buffalo at pick 25. Surprise? Maybe. I'm going to have them get Dameon Pierce, the running back from Florida. I think watching what Dameon Pierce did on a bad Texans team. Imagine if he was on a good team. Absolute destroyer, power back. I think he's the best running back from this draft class. That's bias. I think still Breece Hall looked like a first rounder. Kenneth Walker looked and played like a first rounder. There was other value type selections. Algier down here was like a PFF darling. I just think looking at how Buffalo plays, the smash mouth style that they have with Josh Allen running the football, give me Dameon Pierce to the Buffalo Bills. That would, and he'd be like immediate fan favorite. He'd be a 1,500-yard back for the Buffalo Bills, and I don't know. I actually really love that pick. I don't know if Bills fans would, but we got to go somewhere else. We should have just redrafted Kyrie Elam or something like that. I'm putting Dameon Pierce here. He's going to be a monster. Pick 26, we have the Tennessee Titans. And this is going to be our one, like, in hindsight pick. We're going to have them get Braxton Jones, the tackle of the Southern Utah. Was, I think, one of the highest graded, maybe the highest graded tackle from PFF. He was a starting left tackle for the Chicago Bears. Absolute hit for the Chicago Bears, for a team that didn't have any premier picks, hitting on a guy that's going to be a potential franchise tackle for them. And with the Tennessee Titans, in hindsight, we know they're moving on from Taylor Lewan, but Braxton Jones would have been able to plug and play at right tackle for them. So I had him just going slightly higher than Trevor Penning for the tackle picking order. 27, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to have them select on the interior, Zion Johnson. Guard out of Boston College. Was solid. You know, there's just no real home run picks at this spot for Tampa Bay. I'm not going to have them get a linebacker. You know, maybe Karlaftis, maybe something like Devontae Wyatt on that front three. Could go secondary at this spot. Kyrie Elam. Jack Jones graded out well, but I think that's more so the Patriots system that is talent. You could go safety at this spot. You could go Jaquan Brisker, Daxton Hill if you wanted to, but I just feel like continuing to build up that offensive line, maybe that will help out their run game. That was non-existent this year. Green Bay back on the clock at pick 28. This pick was originally Devontae Wyatt. I'm going to have them go safety and get Jaquan Brisker out of Penn State. A big-time need going into this draft for the Green Bay Packers is safety. And Brisker, I mean, just got to give full credit here. Brisker and Braxton Jones, both outstanding picks from the Chicago Bears. Very productive players. I think Brisker to the Packers would, give them a little bit of flexibility to move on from Darnell Savage, who hasn't really, or maybe move Darnell Savage to slot corner or something like that. Give a little bit more flexibility on the back end of that defense. Pick 29. Kansas City Chiefs, I'm going to have them, luxury pick, go Kenneth Walker, the running back out of Michigan State. They ended up getting Pop Pacheco, who was outstanding, but knowing that there was an opportunity for a rookie running back to go off for Kansas City, we're just going to go with a guy that was very good, outstanding for the Seattle Seahawks. You got to figure if he started all year, he might have ran away with the offensive rookie of the year. It was tough, though, because Breece Hall still looked very impressive before his season was cut short by injury. But I just think I understand, knowing in hindsight how valuable a rookie running back was on the Kansas City Chiefs. Why not go with a guy that's just more talented than Pacheco is? And that would be Kenneth Walker. Back-to-back picks here for Kansas City. And then at pick 30, actually got to have them stay with who they ended up drafting, which is George Karlaftis, the edge rusher out of Purdue. I think he really came on. He played well during the postseason, which was huge for Kansas City. Maybe not the best stats, but I definitely think he's going to build off his rookie season and be take another step next season. You got to wonder, too, if maybe if Kansas City moves on from Frank Clark, it's going to open up for a lot more reps for Karlaftis. Pick 31, we have the Cincinnati Bengals, and I'm going to have the Bengals get Trevor Penning, the tackle from Northern Iowa. We thought they solved their tackle issue. We thought they solved their offensive line issue. That was a lie. Still, Joe Burrow just got absolutely destroyed, and very inconsistent tackle play, to say the least. So they're going to get the best tackle available, because you look ahead at 2023, Cincinnati still is looking to filling out and fixing that offensive line. And finishing out our 2022 redraft, the Detroit Lions are back on the clock at pick 32. Looking at the big board, I know who I'm going. Obviously, I wrote this down, but like, there's, who am I really robbing of? Like, if it was a redraft, they'd go in the first round. I mean, Daxton Hill, great. I had him graded as a first rounder, but he didn't really play a whole lot. He's had a big need for Detroit. Potentially, they go Ajabu, stay in state, and get a Michigan rotational upside edge rusher. Not much at tackle for first round. Breece Hall, but, knowing Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift, maybe you don't go Breece Hall there. Looking at the corners, Kyrie Elam was solid. Gator bias in all. But you already got corner in Sauce Gardner, so you're probably not going to double up at corner. Looking at the defensive line, probably no one there that's screaming draft me in the first round. Nothing at tight end. Quarterback, they don't need. I don't think they would go Brock Purdy, especially after how well Jared Goff played. Could go linebacker, but I don't really think there was any like obvious first round. I mean, Devin Lloyd, maybe he was solid, but like, in perfect hindsight, we'll act like, well, they could just wait and get Rodrigo a little bit later and James Houston, stuff like that, a little bit later. So for me, I'm finishing out. They're going to get Treylon Burks, wide receiver out of Arkansas. I think Treylon Burks struggled with injuries, but when he was on the field for the Tennessee Titans, he made some big-time plays. And you saw maybe not a guy that's going to be the like-for-like replacement, the immediate upgrade or whatever to make it feel and soften the blow of losing A.J. Brown. Maybe not that. That was always going to be massive shoes for him to fill. But he definitely looked and played like a guy that has a ceiling to be a wide receiver one. And I think for the Detroit Lions, in hindsight, because in original, they drafted Jameson Williams. They wanted to target a wide receiver. They're able to stand put and get a different style of wide receiver, but a very versatile weapon that I think him and Amon-Ra St. Brown would make things very, very difficult for teams to defend. So there you go, fellas. That is my complete redraft for the 2022 NFL Draft. How do you think I did? This could be a surprising pick. Would love to hear, would you go Dameon Pierce if you're a Bills fan? I think maybe going Ike Ekwonu at 6 for Carolina, knowing other positions. How would you feel about that? I don't really think there's too many other picks. I mean, Linderbaum, maybe you can make the argument, like, I don't think Dallas would go center in the first round again, but he was so good. And knowing Dallas wants to, kind of rebuild that offensive lineup, maybe that's what they would do. I mean, again, I don't really think outside of that there's too much that could be argued. I think, maybe going running back here to Kansas City, you could just be like, well, we'll just wait for Pacheco. Maybe I wouldn't need that immediate higher investment at the running back spot. What else we got here? Vikings got McDuffie. I think that's pretty easy. Patriots got Stingley. Yeah, imagine that. Bill Belichick working with him. Would Evan Neal still go high? That could be a debate. Or would you guys, in this hindsight, just completely write off a guy that did not have a particularly impressive rookie season? Christian Watson to the Steelers. There could be some debate there. Maybe Steelers would want to go just stay screw it and go defensive back or go offensive line, potentially. Yeah, I don't know. Braxton Jones? Kenny Pickett? Braxton Jones? I don't know, fellas. Let me know. That is the hindsight mock draft. I think it was fun. Cool little experiment, cool little exercise. And I will see you guys tomorrow for the Super Bowl. Tomorrow could very well be the finale of our Madden 23 Carolina Panthers franchise mode. So I'll see you guys back then. Thank you very much for watching. As always, first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button, smash the like button if you enjoyed. And until next time, it's your boy C4. Say peace out. Love ya. Have a good one.